Now join your friends, you wiggles.
What up, what up, what up, what up? Welcome to another episode of What's Up Cuzzo podcast with your host, Melly is in the building.
What up, Cuzzo? How you feeling? What's good?
Hey, man. Fantastic, man. I'm great. And your boy, I give y'all the AKA today. They call me M-Dub.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what they call me. I'm just saying.
Coming with the AKA. All right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into it, man. This is another episode. Like I said, episode 27. And I'm excited, man. It's another fantastic Friday.
Fantabulous.
Fantabulous, as he put it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. So we gonna touch on a couple topics. One, AI. Is it taking over the job market? Two, we've seen different dynamic or some things happening with some sports teams out there. And also, the last thing, we have a special guest today, and we're going to talk about fatherhood and just manhood in itself. You know, we're going to touch on a couple topics, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. Well, what's up, Cuzzo, man? How was your week?
Week went kind of fast. You know, I can't complain. You know, all I have to do is try to maintain. That's it. So
I feel it.
Every day is a good day, and we always working on, you know, making it better for the way we see it. So, you know, no complaints here. What about you, Cuzzo? How was your week?
Man, it was pretty good actually. Short week, but it was all good. I took a day off. Excuse me. And you know, because again, I'm over my days, man. But no, I'm not trying to brag or anything. But yeah, it was a good week. A good week, man. I can't complain at all.
Filthy rich. Sounds like rich.
I hear you, man. Rich, man. Hey, I work hard, man. You know, I work hard for my money.
Right.
Yes, sir. So let's see. Let's go ahead and jump into topic number one. Let's see here. So we have CNBC. There's Andrew Yang. He's going to be talking about what he thinks the future AI looks like in the workforce. We'll go ahead and get it started.
Andy Jassy says artificial intelligence will lead to a reduction of its corporate workforce eventually over the next few years. He wrote in a memo to employees that they should figure out, in his words, how to get more done with scrappier teams. That's nice. Joining us now, former Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang. It's a daunting future we have, Mr. Yang, obviously. And you've been, I said, I was at was it a book party that I attended for you?
A book event.
6 years ago, talking about this on the horizon and the need for maybe even back then universal basic income. I guess at this point you're thinking, wow, it's accelerating faster than you even thought.
Yeah, it's here even faster than I'd imagined back in 2019 and 2020. And I talked to CEOs who are replacing thousands of customer service workers with AI, entire design departments, even coders are being supplanted. And Becky and I were just talking about how we used to tell our kids, hey, if you major in computer science, you'll be good to go. And now those graduates are having a hard time finding jobs. It's starting to appear in the numbers for recent college graduates and entry-level white-collar work.
If you're a science fiction believer, I was going to ask you whether the whole Luddite chorus that we've heard for 150 years, that it's never actually it's always been better technology long term. Maybe not always, but many times even more jobs are created from the technologies that's being displaced, whether it's internal combustion engines or whatever you want to look at. You would argue this time is different with AI. And then it's not, I mean, then if you, like I said, science fiction, not just displacing us from work, but maybe just displacing us altogether 100 years from now.
Yeah, well, we have to take a lot of those science fiction style scenarios very seriously, Joe, in my opinion. And the most common job in 29 states is still being a truck driver. You have robot trucks just now hitting the highways.
So they'll be gone.
Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, said, look, we're going to automate away a lot of the entry-level white-collar jobs. And he's right, because I talked to executives at these companies who are doing exactly what Andy Jassy is talking about on Amazon, looking around saying, hey, guys, instead of hiring a bunch of 22-year-olds, maybe we should have AI do that work. So I fear for the next generation, because all of the experience that maybe we got in our 20s and 30s, there might not be that kind of ladder available to them.
Look, Andy Jassy said that he wants employees to kind of take advantage and learn how to use AI, learn how to do their jobs better, maybe make things easier. Maybe it takes care of some of the grunt level work you don't like doing, but it allows you to have more space and room to do things creatively. Should we be afraid of that?
Well, what this means in real life, Becky, is you have a department of 6 people, let's say coders or designers, and then you end up eliminating 4 or 5 of them, and then there's one designer coder empowered by AI. So there's going to be a beneficiary in the organization, but you're just not going to need as many people in that department, and that's going to play out over and over again.
We'll stop it right there. They said a lot.
Yep. We've been hearing about stuff like this for a while. I mean, we talked about this topic, not exact topic, but something similar like this a few shows back. So I just think, you know, with each new boom in economy, you know, AI is going to do some things more efficient, do some things, you know, like basic customer service stuff, but you're going to always need, you know, people to kind of manage it. You know, you still need that, you know, human, you know, thought process and certain things. So I can kind of see how it can take some things, but a lot of stuff, no. I just don't see it, you know, taking over a lot of the jobs. Now, the whole thing with the whole robotics, you know, stuff, we don't know how far along we are with that, because we got a speed rail train that was supposed to be built here and still hasn't been built, you know. So a lot of this, exactly, you know. So a lot of this stuff is just kind of like, okay, yes, AI, but then at what level? You know, I don't think it's going to be at the level that everybody thinks it is. What he's talking about, yeah, white collar jobs. Well, yeah, because there was a boom with tech and coding. Yeah, so some of that stuff would get taken up. Trucking, yeah, they've been trying to do, as you can see around the city, yeah, driverless cars. Yeah, so some of that stuff may be taken up. But, you know, there's plenty of other things, you know, that are not going to be able to be replaced. As you can see down even at the docks, some of those things are replaced by, you know, robots or robotics, you know. So just looking at it from that standpoint, I agree on some of those jobs, you know, but we have to understand, you know, the bigger picture as to how it's going to affect. These are going to be tools, you know, that you can put in place of certain things, but it's not going to be a total replace. They say within 100 years, yeah, we're supposed to have flying cars by now. We still ain't had that, you know. So we don't know how that's going to look in the future. Yeah, they can forecast it out for you, but for it to really truly be how everyone thinks it's going to be, I don't believe it will, you know, replace any and everybody, you know, in a lot of jobs. Some stuff we see here and there, okay, food service, which is like McDonald's. We see like the kiosks, those certain types of jobs, yes. Well, then there's a lot of jobs that's already in place that waste a lot of money, you know. So I think a lot of this stuff is to figure out how to stop wasteful spending amongst the private sector, And then once it's picked up and, it's kind of given the green light, then they'll try to pick it up in the public sector, So there's a long ways away. When people start to talk about these things, they tend to try to desensitize the public and get them used to the ideal, so that's why they talk about it in the way that they're talking about it. It's still like a good, 10, 20, 30 years, to where it, affects everyone like they think it's going to affect. I mean, in my opinion, I'm not a whatever they call it, an expert, but that's just, from looking at the landscape and online and being what they call a millennial, because I think we were like the first generations to start using computers in the schools. I remember back then where we was using DOS.
Right.
We would get on the computers making your first email address, Back then they were getting you ready for the internet or using email and all that stuff,
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. So I don't know, man. There we go. I love movies, right? And I like to, sometimes I compare things a lot to movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we talked about some of the movies in AI, like you spoke about it in the earlier show, in one of the earlier shows. And I see, back then, we was like, oh, that looks cool, or this is futuristic. And, we thought that stuff was kind of closer than it has been.
Mm-hmm.
But looking how, it did, kind of take a while to get to where we are. But when I look at things, just how AI is, how, advanced it is, how you can tell it to create a video, about whatever, right now, it's only 8 to 10 seconds. Some people I've heard are able to do, up to a minute. But when you tell it to do that and it looks so realistic, and then you have, you ask it to write you a script for whatever, you ask AI to, whichever one you're using, whether it be ChatGPT or Gemini or whichever other ones out there, but you ask it to create a app for you, create a website for you, and it does all the code for you. One of those jobs, and he mentioned it, is that, you tell your kids to go into tech. A lot of coaches, tell their kids to go into tech. And now some of those basic coding jobs, can be done. I could do that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And what it's doing is it may not necessarily get rid of everybody, but what it's doing is making the job easier. Now instead of it being like it takes 20 people, to do something, it takes one or two people. And I don't know how far off like all of those positions are, going to be impacted, but I'll just name a few. So Klarna is the pay weekly. It's one of those apps you pay on your item that you purchased up front. So they replaced 700 full-time customer service agents using AI. IBM plans to replace around 7,800 back office jobs and with AI and automation. One of our favorite apps, Duolingo. They let go 10% of the contractor workforce, and is going to pivot to AI for content creation. So you see right there, and that's not. I've seen so many others. I just only added those 3 in here, but normally just for IBM, for instance, apparently whatever job it was, these people were doing, but 7,800 people, they feel it could be leveraged by using artificial technology.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I say, personally, use it as this is the opportunity to use it as a tool. Whatever job you're in, whatever direction you want to go in, you can use it as a tool to get you there quicker or get you the information quicker. Like I don't know how long it would take me to write code to do a website that'll, it'll take me a while. You know what I mean? But it could write the code within seconds, really, but I'll just say minutes. And I think that, it's a good opportunity to leverage it. I actually had a conversation with my daughter, and I said, you use it, I'm sure, for these kids use it for their assignments. I know they do. It was this one guy, I forgot what college he was with, but he showed at the graduation on his computer which AI models he used to help write his papers. But I told her, though, like use it to leverage, like what careers are going to be recession proof, or what jobs are going to be out there and available and allow you to have a livable wage in 10, 20 years.
Right.
Because I may not have to necessarily worry about it, because I'm going to be damn near retired, if not retired. But our kids is going to be something that they have to deal with, because they're going to either be getting into the workforce or in the workforce, and they may be potentially impacted, by it. And I even see like work, like, I guess I don't want to tell too much information, but I seeing people that are students that are in the technical field, I see some of them are having challenges finding jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Because like a dime a dozen now, and again, like a lot of these companies are going to leverage. What's the main thing that a company? Well, I'll say one of the main things that a company goal is. The goal is to make money, and if they can make money and save money on the back end, then they're going to do that. Like I said, I don't know exactly how far we're away, but I think from the time when we were younger and, we saw these things and we're like, oh, they're cool. I think it's a lot closer now, because they're like, things are like on, it's like it's on steroids now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, we'll see what happens, man. Like I said, I know I've been adopting it, but there's some careers out there. I mean, use it to find out what with AI advancing, what jobs will be available, or what jobs will be needed. There's so many jobs out there and so many opportunities. I mean, if you want to use, a search engine, you can, but I've done that too. Like find out what is going to be out there, and then you could actually, if you need to, shift, or if you need to adjust in your current position, then you could adjust in your current position. If you use it to better yourself in that position or whatever, So like he used an example. He said you'll have like 5 or 6 engineers, and then one will leverage AI, and the other 3 or 4, you be that one who leverages the tools that you have. I mean, that's really what it's always been about. Like whatever tools and whatever way you could better yourself in life, will hopefully put you in a better position. So that's my spiel. We're gonna go ahead and hop to the next topic, unless you have something else, cause that you wanted to.
No, because I want to keep it moving, because I know we got some at the end we want to do. So let's keep it rolling.
You know what? I actually don't have a video for this, but I wanted to, talk about it. Let's see here. So professional teams they're undergoing like a transformation as a private equity firm and large consortium acquire teams, treating them as a financial asset class. and I'll say this: there's 3 teams, actually 4 teams now that I have. So the Washington the Washington Commanders,
Mm-hmm.
the Boston Celtics, Chelsea FC, and then most recently the Los Angeles Lakers. The thing that they have in common, that they've all been sold to groups or consortiums.
Mm-hmm.
So going away from the normal ownership, like you'll have like the main owner, kind of like it was the buses, and then but you would have people that own majority. I mean, I'm sorry, other like small shares in the company. But now it's going away from where you have these large consortiums or groups that own multiple of teams, right? So like the guy that bought the Lakers, he owns the Dodgers as well.
Right.
And so with that shift, how do you see the dynamic of, and I guess I'll hop in first. With that shift, and this is the question, with that shift, do you see the dynamic of the team and player relationships changing? And so if you look at the Boston Celtics, they're one of the teams mentioned. Jason Tatum, $300+ million contract. Jaylen Brown, $300+ million contract. Derek White, around the 150 to 130 to 150 mark. Drew Holiday, around that same area. Porzingis, he's in that same ballpark. And a couple of days ago, Porzingis, he got traded to Atlanta. And then Drew Holiday got traded to Portland. I felt bad for bro because that's like a wasteland. But he was one of the ones that helped them win a championship.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it seems like the dynamic is changing, because these teams, I would say some of these consortiums or groups, they don't seem like they have that it's about having a good product per se. It's like a mix. So I want to have a good product, but I don't want to spend all this money. But the money, I think, is taking the precedence, and I get it. You know what I'm saying? Of course, I don't have billions of dollars, but naming those 5 players, that's what 600, 700 billion. I'm sorry, million, and then you have the 3. That's like $1 billion for 5 players. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I could see, like, man, like, hey, that's a bag. But
Mm-hmm.
you had a team that, won a championship, and they may have won the second championship if Jason Tatum hadn't got hurt. But I mean, I see that these teams are potentially shifting, the way that they handle it. Even the Dallas Mavericks is another one. The Dallas Mavericks, they traded Luka Doncic. He was actually in line to get the Supermax.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a different opinion about this, but I'm not gonna go into this part. But they traded him for Anthony Davis to come to the Lakers, and guess what? That makes him ineligible for the Supermax. And now they don't have to pay him. I think it was like high 200s, 300 or low 300s $1 million.
Right.
And I don't know, like you can only do that so much because eventually these players are gonna, reach a certain level, and then how are they, you can only trade and swap and, do all this stuff with, so many people. So I don't know. What do you think, cuz about it?
I mean, all those points you made were definitely valid. I definitely think the landscape of the NBA has changed and is changing. It's in a transitional mode. in terms of ownership and, teams owning multiple teams, I think that's going to be more and more common. Gone are the days of you have, the family owned teams, it's going to be more of, like you say, conglomerates, public, funds, and then it's going to be more about not so much, getting the most out of the entertainment in terms of the value, but more in terms of the bottom line, more in terms of, contracts having to do with, TV, and streaming, all those things are factors now. So it's no longer, like you said, let me put the best product out there, but let me see how I can maximize this this asset, for this season or next season or whatever, or if I max it out, no problem, and then I can just trade away everybody else, and then, it'll be, subpar in terms of what the watcher gets back or what the fan gets back, because there's an algorithm and there's a formula to the entertainment business. They know that, they have that. So I definitely do agree that, yeah, it's not going to be like it used to be. It's not going to be like it is. It's going to continue to evolve, and it's going to be more about, like you said, getting the most money out of each asset on the team. And then if this person this person is the most popular in the team, I give him the supermax, and then I'll ship off, other pieces on the team, and then we'll bring in rookies. We'll bring in people from other teams that's not, as good. We'll shuffle, until we, get lucky or strike it big or whatever you want to call it, So it's one of those things I've been looking at for a while. Like, I don't even watch the NBA like I used to because it really doesn't excite me to watch it. I didn't even watch the finals really because it was like, didn't seem that exciting,
Right.
So yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do moving forward. The league is gonna start looking like like we was talking about last week, the Flint Tropics. My boy
Jackie
Will
Malone.
Ferrer, yeah, trying to pull it together, man, and make some money. So yeah, that's where it's going. Like, owners of teams used to be one guy, or a family. Now it's becoming conglomerates, and trust and believe me, they're not going to be looking at it the same way. Entertainment, doing it for the people, doing it for the crowd. I'm excited, because I like this athlete, this person. No, it's like, okay, what's the bottom line? What are we getting in terms of TV watch and ratings and streaming? When this person is in there or when they out, they have all the analytics. They already know. They got the algorithm on lock. So they're going to, I'm going to give you the max and everybody else can leave. Thank you. We'll bring in some more people.
You know what? I think OKC, at least they're in a pretty good position because a lot of those guys are on rookie deals, and they have like all these draft picks, so they have a lot of opportunity to still be a good team, for the next few years. But yeah, man, I just see that these groups, they're not like the Mark Cubans, like you know what, and actually I have to say this too. You have one, and actually I don't know if he's part of a group, but you have Steve Ballmer, who's the owner of the Clippers, and he looks like a legit fan. Like he took his own money, built the arena. He actually paid for some fans to travel to Denver for the playoff game. Like he's like one of those type, but how many of real NBA fans or sports fans do you have within these particular groups? And I mean, it's just my humble opinion. is that they see it kind of like as an investment. And I think it's going to backfire on them eventually. I mean, right now they'll eat. Like, if you look at it, like, it's crazy because one, Jeannie Buss didn't pay for the Lakers. Her dad did, right?
Mm.
None of those kids paid for them. But
Mm.
then they're valued at $10 billion.
Mm-hmm.
That's a return out this world, right? Right.
Absolutely. Because
Yeah.
he bought the team for like what, 600 million or something?
66 million.
66 million? Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So that's like a 10,000% return.
Well, it's not even that. It's more than that because
Right.
they didn't pay for it. He paid for it. You know what I'm
There you
saying? You know what I'm saying?
Thousand, whatever you want to say. Infinity
Right.
returns. You know, it wasn't my money, it was my dad's money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
then
I'm just
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm just interested to see, you know, after that sale of the Lakers, you know, how much that's going to change, you know. Since it's a group now, you know, it's not an individual.
Right.
You know, how those decisions change in terms of how the team is ran and how the team is built. It's not going to be the same as it was before, you know, when you had the individual owner. The mindset's going to be a little bit different, you know. So it's going to be interesting to see, you know, how that goes, you know. So yeah, right. I was going to just point to what you said. Yeah, Steve Ballmer. I don't even know if the Maloof brothers are around. You know, those are people that you can point to that were fans. And then that's a dying breed for sure.
Yeah, we'll see how it works out, man. You know, as I mentioned, like the Washington Commanders, they're one of the, you know, most recent football teams, and we'll see if we see that trend, you know, football as well. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and hop to the next subject, man. Hey, man, we got one of the good brothers on the call. This is our first guest on the podcast. Man, I appreciate this brother for hopping on. My bad. I didn't see your message, bro. He is a father of 3. He's married. He has been married for 15 years to a wonderful young lady. I know her personally. And he also served 25 years in the U.S. Navy. And he is a man of God. We are going to introduce Brother Al to the call. Let me figure out how. There we go. There we go. We got you in there. What's up with you, bro?
What's going on, fellas, man? Appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for joining, man. Yes, sir. Welcome, man. This is my cousin Jamel. Hence the name. What's up, cuzzo? Yeah, man. So Al actually is the one who shared the video with me. Den of Kings with Kirk Franklin, and I actually I had saw a different clip, but I didn't get the opportunity to watch the entire video. So I did, you know, take a look at it, and I thought it was very insightful and something that, you know, we, you know, needed to look at. So I'm gonna just go ahead and did you want to share anything with us, Al, before we start? I'm gonna play a little bit of the video, and then we'll start talking about, you know, our take on it.
Well, I mean, just the overall sit down that Kirk Franklin had. The whole episode was not only empowering. It's just something that us as not only Black men, but as men, period, and as males, fathers, husbands, or those looking to be, definitely can take heed and listen to a lot of the nuggets that was put out there by the group, no matter whether they were young or old. So, but we'll definitely take a look at some of the clips and get a lot of the information. But if you're in a position at a point in your life where some of that stuff resonates with you, it's definitely a powerful message.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that, man. Let us hop in here. This is my first time with the trio. So let's see. Share this tab. There we go.
and be able to let know that it is the biggest myth ever about Black fathers.
That we ain't there.
Let me start that over.
Close your eyes, Lou. Close your eyes.
For the vegans, for the non.
Like, might not be in the house. Fact of the matter is, studies show that Black fathers are the most.
See, that's good. I get now. Let me see. 4 is like 450 or so.
For the season is the vegans.
So, man, I got one first question I want to ask y'all as we get down. I want to know, what is the biggest myth that society has about Black fathers?
And I'm gonna stop right there because I don't want their opinion to jade ours. But what is a Black myth? I mean, what is a myth about Black fathers? We'll start with our guest Al, and then we'll go to you, Jamil.
I look at it as, you know, one of the biggest myths that we all know is, you know, it's that we're all absent for the most part. You know, Black fathers ain't around. I mean, as they look at it, as the world looks at it, most of them are in prison, are dead, or just walks away from the family, which isn't true. And the reason why I say that is, you know, I put myself in that situation where I'm a Black father and I'm here with my family, and I know a lot of men, either that I serve with in the military, that I coach with in sports, that are Black fathers, and that are there in the household, you know, 2-parent households, you know, with their kids. So that right there is one of the biggest myths to me.
No doubt. Yeah, I would say for me, one of the biggest myths is, you know, men are deadbeats, you know, in terms of, you know, how they run their household. Like he was saying, being in the house, not being in the house. I kind of feel like there's been a stigma put on our community, you know, as fathers. And I think it's a psyop, you know, it's more like COINTELPRO, you know, so I don't see where it came from or how it came from, but it's kind of one of those cultural misappropriation of things that they put on us, and they've used the system and, you know, popular culture to kind of pit us against, you know, the women in our community, you know, so they can kind of take on that mantle and work against us, you know, from using that standpoint, you know, and it's kind of like, well, that's not even true, you know. So as in the video, the guy was saying, like, yeah, they took the nuclear family away from a lot of people in our community. So that's where it started to bring those things about, you know. But, you know, for me, I've always been, you know, a part of a community, a part of households that wasn't like that. So really didn't understand where that come from or when it started to happen. I mean, we can point back to some things, but yeah, that's what I would say for my part.
Man, y'all took my answers. I mean, I would, you know, I would say, you know, that one big myth, you know, kind of like you said, Al, they were not present, and kind of like you said in the video. But I think that the men, we are there, you know. A lot of us are there, I would say that. And a lot of times, you know, we get the viewpoint of it's our fault if we aren't present, you know. And I, you know what, I'll take responsibility. You know, we, you know, as a man, you know, that's one thing that we have to do, right? We have to take responsibility, and, you know, we just get to get better at picking the people that we, you know, are with. And you guys are married, I'm not, so you guys have more success than I have had at that. But I think that's one thing that, you know, they see, like, we pick, you know, we try to be there, and we get blamed for not being there because the mother makes a decision and chooses to not want to be with us, which is cool, but they try to disconnect us from the child, which is not cool. So mine is short and sweet. You know, I want to make sure that you guys have time to share, so my answers might be, you know, somewhat short. But let's see, area 2, unless you guys have something else you wanted to jump in and say about that particular point. You can unmute if you want to. No? All right.
No, we good. Are we watching some more of the video, or how
Yeah,
did
yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
You asked earlier. You was like, how do you feel sometimes as a man? Do you feel like you get just due? No. I'm gonna be honest. I be in my house all day. I cook, I clean, I do schoolwork, I take him to track practice. I do everything. Like when it comes to that fatherhood shit, I do everything. And you know what's the first thing people say? You know, how could Dina, she need a break. She got all them boys. And you know, my wife does her fair share. There is no she does more, I do more. We both do. But when you asked about how we feel as fathers, I honestly don't feel like fathers get enough just due. Because I'm just as guilty, yo.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about
my father was dead. And the minute I got an opportunity, I thank my mom for everything. And I thank my mom and everything in part because my father was the one holding me accountable. So during the time, it was, and I'm just being honest, it was almost like I'm not even going to thank him. And I didn't realize how that could be coming across to him.
I feel that way.
yeah. So Jamel, I'll let you hop in first this time.
Yeah, I would have to agree. You know, I think for men, because we are the protectors and the providers that we are, you know, we don't need the recognition, but we would like the recognition. You know, I don't think we complain, you know, if we don't get the recognition, but I think in today's society, men are speaking up more because of the whole push behind mental health. So I think that comes from a space and place, you know, from people growing up as children. You know, if you don't get certain affections, if you don't get certain recognitions, you know, that can kind of spill over into your adult life, you know. And I don't understand why it happens that way. Because I can remember growing up, you know, you see your mom doing stuff and you think your mom doing everything, but your dad's coming home and giving a check to your mom. So yeah, she going shopping, she cooking the food, but you know, she paying the bills. But yeah, Pops is handing over all his check. You know, you guys are going on little trips here and there. You know, Pops is handing over his check. So I think earlier on, you know, that has to be something that's instilled in your family, you know, and I don't think that's something that was instilled in families earlier on because it was just a given, you know, it was just a given. And he definitely made a point. Like people make it, people get up on that stage and they thank God, they thank their moms. And I'll be kind of looking too, like, where's the dad at? Like, okay, you can see the dad, but he's always in the back, on the side, mama right there in the front, like, oh, that's my baby. And it's kind of like, well, Pop's right there. Like, give him a love. But you see some Pops that take center stage, and I like that. That's cool. But, you know, I do think that men should be celebrated more, or like they say, given their flowers, you know, when they're seen and not viewed, you know. Viewed is mean when they land in the casket. So you definitely want to make sure that you tell men more how you appreciate them and what they do these days, because it makes a difference, you know. And that's my thing. I'll let it go. I'll let the next person go.
What about you, Al?
Definitely a good point made, Jamil, when you said there's a space and a place. And I always looked at it as depending on who you are, what you're doing, and where you are, is depending on how you're going to get celebrated, depending on the audience, the crowd that you're a part of. I always relate things back to coaching and mentoring young men. Something that I've done and I see a lot of males do, especially in sports or certain programs, where those single mothers, those two-parent households, and even those children, you know, they celebrate the male, that coach, that father figure. So that's where I see where men are celebrated. When it comes inside the home, we have to look at it as, you know, sometimes the mother may give that child a whole lot of love that father may not give them. The mother may prepare all the meals. So therefore that child is feeling nurtured a lot to the mother, and they looked at it as like, mom's had me, even though pops is helping taking care of me. It's almost like it's lopsided to a point, because a child may see a mother do more, and if they don't see the father at work, if they don't see the income, they're not realizing that the father plays a huge part to celebrate that individual, right? And it, as fathers, sometimes we may come down hard on our kids. So a lot of times they don't want to celebrate that, because we made it came down extra hard, like how we were raised or how the streets raised us, and they didn't look at that as a positive, something to celebrate. But they
We're gonna
don't.
talk about that topic. I'm gonna cut you off, but we're gonna get to that.
But yeah, it's just to a point. They celebrate the positive moments and nurturing moments a lot. But us as men, we should be celebrated more. But our time may just come later on in life, and not at the heat of those moments, the early stages of a child winning.
Thank you. Yeah, man. Jamel, we actually had a show. We talked about Father's Day. There was a discrepancy, a large discrepancy. You had $10 billion more being spent on Mother's Day than on Father's Day. And I'm not really concerned with like the gifts and things like that, but having a time where you can be recognized is always important. And I don't want to go too deep into the other topic, because we're going to talk about this as well. But sometimes you don't know, people don't know what you're dealing with. And so having that opportunity, it doesn't have to be necessarily on Father's Day, but having opportunity where, your kids and your significant other can recognize you is huge for, and I think one of you guys brought this up, for mental health. And as a man, I know my job. You know what I mean? I know I need to go out here. I know I need to grind. And it's sad that we call it a grind, but yeah, we got to go out here and put in work and provide, for the family. If we're out and about, or if we're at home, and it comes to a point where we have to protect, our family, we know we have to do that. But sometimes, it's good to be told, I appreciate you. And that's really all that I would need. You know what I mean? Just a word like, I appreciate you. And that will mean more to me than, the socks or the t-shirts that I get. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that'll mean a lot more to me. So I think he brings up a valid point, man. It doesn't have to be anything huge. Like, those small things matter, and just having an individual that understands that will be great. And that goes back to the people that we choose. Some people don't have an individual that recognizes them. One more instance, we talked about this one lady. She said, "Oh, I don't do nothing for my husband. I only cook for the kids. He folds his clothes. He cooks his own food." I'm like, what kind of woman is that? I said, nah, that wouldn't work for me. But yeah, I you guys bring up valid points. But yeah, just having an opportunity and having someone to just share, like, hey, I appreciate you. It will work with all I want to have. I'm not gonna say all I want to have, but some Jordans would be nice too. But but having that will be it will work for me. So let me I'm gonna hop into the next video. One of the topics I think Al kind of touched on, I think it's either this video or maybe the next one. Let me see, share. We're moving faster than I thought. Let's see. All right.
As a father, that I learned, I used to be real tough on my oldest son, Jackson, because I'm playing in the NFL. You know how it is. You got a son. Everybody assumes that, yeah, my son gonna be the best. You know what I'm saying? And my father was, and here's the funny part, my father wasn't like that. My father was an athlete. I said, I want to play football. He said, go ahead, have fun. I want to play basketball. Go ahead, have fun. came to the games he could, supported me, but he was never like, we got to do this. And I felt free to be that athlete. But then I became a dad and I got an athlete. So now I wake up 6 in the morning. We working out. We doing this. He playing games. I'm screaming and hollering, cussing, doing everything. And I'm watching him come off the court every game and he's got his head down. And I'm like, what's your problem? Your demeanor? You know, his attitude, his demeanor. He just looked at me. He just looked at me. He was like, this ain't even fun no more.
I'll stop it right there. Yeah. So I'll just say my piece real quick. You know, my son is, 2 years old, almost 2. So I haven't necessarily had to deal with that from a son. But I would say this. I remember when my oldest daughter, she was playing basketball at a park, right? So, Jamel, I played in high school. I played a little bit in college as well. And, I was showing her how to shoot around. I said, hey, baby, like, shoot like this, or, look at your, your form, keep your follow through up, things like that. And she was like, Daddy, I'm just trying to do my thing. I said, what? I said, okay, my bad. And I learned, kind of quick, like, hey, just let her, do her thing, not be, too aggressive. But, having a son is different. I've always wanted a son. I wanted to be married first, but things work out like they worked out. But I could see myself being like that dad, like, come on, son, let's get up, let's go play, let's work on your left hand, let's go work on your right hand. But I have to keep conditioning myself to not be that dad, like even before he even starts to play a sport. I'm telling myself, you know what? He doesn't even have to play basketball if he doesn't want to. Whatever he wants to do, let him do it. And I'll just be a help, to him in whatever that is. So but I definitely, feel it, because you want your kids to be better than you were. You want them to advance more than you did, and not just in sports, but in life, period. And so you want to give them the game that, you didn't have at the time, so they can exceed far and past and beyond that you ever, did. So he brings a valid point, and I know you two have, older sons. So I'll let you jump in, Al, first, and then Jamel after.
I always look at this as it's two sides to every coin when it comes to your kids playing sports, and especially from a father's point of view. One, you don't want to be that father of the kid that's terrible out there on the court, the field, the baseball diamond, for everybody to look at you a certain way.
That's a fact.
And that's why a lot of fathers, go hard on their kids as far as being aggressive, yelling, and that takes the fun out of sport for the child. That's one way. And then two is just, it depends on, to me, how you were raised, where you played, and how you see sports. Is it something you're looking at for your kid to try to go professional and change your lifestyle with it? Because that depends on how much you're going to put into it. Or if it's just recreational, that's where, the have fun, enjoy the game comes from. Because I'm not looking at you to live your life through sports, right? And most parents is like, hey, I didn't get to do it, now my child is going to do it. I'm not that way with my sons. Both of my sons play sports. I have an older son who played basketball, who played football, who played lacrosse as a black male, right? And my son now plays baseball, basketball, and volleyball. Am I tough on him? I always look at it as, if you're gonna play a sport, give it your all. If you're gonna be lazy playing a sport, don't play it at all, because I'm not gonna waste my time as a parent supporting you financially in a sport, showing up to a sport, volunteering time to a sport, because in high school, they want parents to volunteer time and income. So if you're going to waste time, it's not no use for me doing that, because I'm wasting my time and finances. But it's just one of those things. It's like the aggression, you have to play like this. That went out the window, because I realized my son isn't me. He isn't the way that I played sports in high school, the way I played sports recreational, and he's not a urban ghetto kid like I was. Totally different aspects and different ways that you can actually approach a child now. So I mean, that's kind of like my part on it. Is I just let them have fun, and I'm just there to support all the kids, not just my own. And I kind of tell him what he did wrong and what he did right and what he can improve on, and just let him take it from there.
Cuzzo.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, I had most of my children played sports. I think the only one that hasn't played sports yet is Jamia. Yeah, so I have a total of 6 children. So my oldest son, he played football, and he played Little League, Pop Warner, and he went high school and played a little bit of college, and then my oldest daughter played soccer all the way from 5 all the way to high school. She didn't play in college. My other daughter, she played basketball. She played lacrosse. And that was it. And then my other daughter, she played volleyball. And that was it. I think she's going to run track this year for her senior year in high school. And then my youngest son, a 6-year-old, he played basketball. We just played soccer, which I was like a assistant coach. That was different. And then he wants to do karate next. So it's like, in all those instances, like, they asked to play whatever they played. I didn't force anything. They all had natural born talent to do what they did, and it was as good as they was, So I don't, me personally, have the philosophy of me forcing or being hard on a child to play a sport. If you do that, that's fine. I'm not judging people that do that because they have a different perspective on how to look at it. But sports are supposed to be fun for children. And as you get older, you become more competitive. So you get more serious. But you're still supposed to be having fun when you play, because you're better, because you're training and working harder. So, yeah, you can get out there and actually do some things that you want to do. So there's nothing wrong with wanting the best from your children, because as we said earlier, nobody wants to see their child out there looking terrible on the field, on the court, and you spending your time and your money, and they're not out there serious about it, As long as they're having fun, they're engaged in the game, and they're actually paying attention and being respectful, then yeah, by all means, have a great time. But I think we miss as parents sometimes, because we see them online all the time, those parents that get in the coach's face, get in the ref's ear, maybe want to fight the other coaches or fight the other parents because your kid hit my kid too hard or stuff like that. So it's just kind of like we all lose the sportsmanship on what it's all supposed to be for. We're doing this so kids can have an experience and learn different levels of discipline within themselves, teamwork, those different aspects of it. So I think, moving forward, I always tell my children, like, if you want to work out, we'll work out, because I'm going to work out regardless. So if you see me working out, you want to come along, we can do it, I'll scale back some things for you, but if you're coming along with me, we're gonna get some work done. I'm not gonna be forcing you. If I get up at 6 and you ain't up and you still asleep, then I'm gone. I'll see you when I get back. That's just what it comes down to. So I just think that, given my example as to how I take care of myself and my discipline, if I lead by example, most likely they will follow that example, even my toughest one, my 14-year-old, she don't want to do nothing. But, you know, we took her to the gym for the first time because it's free for high school children to go to Planet Fitness for the summer. So we took her and she was like, you know what, I want to go back to the gym. You know, I had a good time. It was relaxing, you know. So there you go. It's not something I forced her to. I provided it. She went out there and did what she needed to do, and she enjoyed it. You know, that's what it's supposed to be. That's what it should be. And, you know, hopefully, you know, moving forward, people will start to realize it's about the child. It's not about you. Yes, you want the best for the child, but how you're pushing the child may not be the best for them. So I'll yield the floor.
Man, hopefully I don't have to deal with, you know, Ian being trash. Hey, come on, son. Oh man. All right, man.
I'm gonna definitely call him trash if I show up. He looking
All
trash.
right, man. I ain't invite you.
Oh man.
I'm not even gonna invite you.
I was like, this is you invite me to? This is y'all been practicing doing?
Hey, man.
Tip off the old block. Like
Right,
Nah,
exactly.
Nah.
He came and
Nah,
wow. Okay.
I was pretty good, man. You know, my time. So hey, you know, hey, I don't know what happened. You must have took after your mama.
Ooh, yeah, that
But
could
people-
happen too. That could happen.
Man, so I'm gonna play this last part of the video, and man, I want to appreciate you again, Al, for hopping on.
Yep.
You are our first guest, man. We're trying to build this thing up.
Let's do it.
Let's see. No, that's not the right one. It's this one. Share tab. Cool.
But I'm crying.
You know what's scary about that, though, DC, bro? As your brother, what's scary about that is you shouldn't have to put all your pain into your art.
You don't think so?
You shouldn't have to.
I think
The reason why I say that, though, the reason why I say that is because, say for whatever reason, the stage is no longer available.
Mm-hmm.
What you gonna do with that?
I put it into my creativity.
Yeah.
So it's not just
comedian do that.
Not the
it's
literal
not
thing.
just literally the
Yeah.
stage.
Oh no, I'm not.
It's just I get to create a space where I can let it out, because in the real world I can't release.
Because you're a comedian.
I can't. Not even about me being a comedian. I just can't release.
You know
It's
why?
almost like one of your heroes would say, though,
I can't
dude.
release.
It's like even like Denzel, you know, he's very honest about he's not a movie star. He's really a stage guy.
Right. He said it
can-
correctly.
Yeah, he could do that till he's 90 some years old.
But I do think we're all moving around what the topic is.
Talk to me.
The fact of the matter is we shouldn't have to do that.
Right.
The fact that we do that and say, hey, I can, is we should be able to get into a round table like this
Okay.
of men
I feel where
and
you're going.
talk about our pain, talk
feel where
about
you're
our
going.
fears, talk about the
know where
things
that
that
comes
bother
from?
us.
Bible study.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Kirk, go on.
All right, I'll stop it right there. So how do you guys feel about men? You know, maybe you believe men do have a space to talk about, you know, the things that they deal with. But how do you guys feel that? I'll start with you, Cuzzo, and then I'll go after you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm actually an advocate for men having a space to have a round table and have different discussions. You know, I think that's something that we lack in our community. We miss. You know, it used to be the barbershop, you know, as they say. It used to be churches for some people, you know. But now, people kind of get lost in entertainment and artistry, you know, and creativity, which is all fine. I can kind of see both sides of what you're saying, you know, and both of those things are good. You know, neither one is better than the other. You know, it's all up to the individual on how they're able to best release, because sometimes communication for people best comes out in comedy or creativity. And yes, that can be considered masking in certain instances, because they don't have the words to, you know, say I'm hurt and I need help, you know, or they don't see a person that they can go to personally that they can seek that out, or they don't feel comfortable with sitting with, you know, a therapist that doesn't look like them, or even talking to, you know, a female therapist because they've been hurt in the past, you know, by a woman per se, or their mother wasn't in their life. So it could be many different scenarios and reasons that, you know, people do certain things. And, you know, I definitely give, you know, DC Young Fly his kudos for going through what he's been through and to still be able to be functioning as he is, as highly as he is, because laughter kind of takes off the pressure of a lot of different things, you know, the seriousness, I would say, you know. So having roundtables like this, I think it's good in certain situations, but you need to get out and go laugh, you know, go out with the fellas and watch entertainment and just take in the moment, you know. Everything is not just so cerebral back and forth. Sometimes you need the energy to disperse in other different ways. And of course, you want it to be as healthy as possible, but you want to make sure that people are becoming better because of that, you know, and not just, you know, having to sit down and do things a certain way because you've been told to sit down and do things a certain way all your life, through school, you know, through your mom and your dad telling you what to do, you know, all those different things. So I'll yield the floor.
Man, you sounded like a preacher over there hitting on the pulpit. I heard you hitting on the desk or something. I was like, he's about to start hooping over there. Oh man. I would say well, firstly, before I say my point, I think what's the guy's name? Duvall Ellis. I think his, you know, when he was saying what he was, you know, when he was saying what he was saying, because people tried to start jumping around and give other reasons. I think that's what happens when we talk about how we feel in our feelings. We kind of jump around it. And he's basically saying, like, yeah, you can use, you know, working out, you can use, you know, comedy, you can use all these things to help you relieve some of the stress of it, but actually getting to the root cause of it and talking about that is important as well, you know. But what I would say, one thing, the reason why men don't talk about it, because sometimes men, it can make you seem as weak or appear weak. You know, you'll get that, you know, I was raised a certain way. My dad was there, but he wasn't really vocal. He kind of just, you know, he was a man of few words, as they would say. You know, but I knew his mannerisms and I know what he meant. And, you know, he was a masculine man. And he never said to me, "Oh, you can't show your feelings," but I didn't really see him show or express how he felt sometimes. You know what I mean? And shout out to him, I love him, you know, but I don't think I heard him say I love you more than a few times. You know what I mean? In my lifetime. But I know he loved me because I know he, you know, what he did for me. He went out there and provided for me, made sure I had a home, made sure I had food, made sure I had clothes. And, you know, he would be there for me and show up, you know, at events for me, you know, when I play basketball, etc. So I think that's one of the major things, man. And it's not just that, like the appearance of it, but when people see men express how they feel, they have a lot of different things to say about it. You know, you sassy now and all this other crazy stuff. And it just gets ridiculous. And I think that's why men feel like they don't have a safe space to share these things, but it is really important. You know, I have a good friend that I talk to about certain things, but even with him, I don't go too deep, you know, into those things because you don't want to feel or appear, you know, weak. And I know that's something you know, even at 40 plus, I get to grow out of because it's something that could be weighing on us that we could relieve that stress easily by having these conversations. So I mean, I like I said again, I appreciate you sharing that video because the video was, you know, I don't want to say right on time because I'm not necessarily going through anything right now, but it was insightful and you know, more groups and things like that. You know, just starting with hanging out, like you said, Jamel. Those things are key. You know, like building a brothership. Women do it all the time. You know what I mean? For some reason, us men, we don't get together and hang out for the a lot and have conversations about certain things like this. And my thing is, I think a lot of guys be like, oh, he might kind of soft, man. You talking about that, and they may not even say that. It may not be even the perception of people, but it's just a certain thing that I have in my mind that people might say that. So I'll yield the floor and I'll let you share, Al.
We get to look at it as it's like society painted a picture that men are not allowed to have a sensitive moment. A lot of men have a fear of being judged. If they talk about problems, pain, display any kind of emotion, they feel that they're less than the person that they are. But it dates all the way back to slavery, to a point where men were physical beasts and couldn't have weak moments, had to take care of the family, had to take care of a woman, had to provide for a child. But at the time is like now we've gone through so much from childhood to our adult years that a lot of people may not know because they see the person that you put out there, right? I mean, I'll take myself for example. Is my father was in my life from birth to 6 years old, and when him and my mom divorced and went their separate ways, he didn't come back into my life between the age of 6 until 16 until I graduated high school. So it was a 10-year gap, even though he was 2 blocks away from me. It wasn't a point of we couldn't see each other or anything like that. He didn't want to because he didn't want to deal with my mom's issues and those problems. So now that forces me, as my mom is present, but she's not present, like you said about Pops, right? So now I'm like without both parents. The streets raised me, sports raised me. I had a male figure I can look at, which was my grandfather, but again, a man of few words. But I know what I had to do. His dying wishes was learn a trade, make something of yourself, take care of the family. That's all I knew. It wasn't who could I go to for emotional assistance? If you're dealing with any kind of pain, who could you turn and talk to? A lot of that stuff I didn't learn until I was older. I got to talk to, my pastor, or, another friend of mine I got to talk to. But now, whether you believe it or not, is within the last month or so, I've been able to express my pain and a lot of stuff I went through in my life with my spouse. Because at the end of the day, she gets to look at me and realize what I went through, why I'm so hard on my son at sometimes, why I may act a certain way, is because I went through all this. Don't look at me and think, oh, he's had it together, had a good life, when he really didn't, because he was without. Yeah, I'm different now because I have to build myself up, and I have to give, my children something to look forward to of the individuals they should be. But at the same time, you can express yourself as well. And that's kind of like the hard part. We don't have those safe spaces where we can come together and talk about issues. Like you said, Jamel, it used to be the barbershop. We used to have, barbecues, dominoes, spades tournaments where it was just the fellas. Marco, we tried it to a point where we all went bowling at that time, but was it more conversation of what we're going through, or was it just a fella's day out with less conversation? So we get to be intentional when we say, hey, we're going to have these outings, we're going to have these dinners, we're going to have these, kickbacks, but this is what we're going to discuss. This is the space where you can be open, no judge zone, no need to hold nothing back, because if you're going through something, I'm here for you, and be serious about that. So you don't have to have a point where, I can tell you something, but I don't want to tell you everything.
Right.
It's just to that point where you can look at me and be like, you know what? I really trust him what I'm about to say, because maybe I've been through it. You don't know. Maybe I'm waiting for you to say something for me to release. And now all of a sudden conversations in that relationship is different. So, I mean, some people look at that as something females do and not what males do. But 2025 and beyond, we have to get to the point that we are men. We know how to stand up for ourselves and our families. But at the same time, things that we go through, pain that we have, we can release it and not be looked at as less than.
Absolutely. Great share, both of you guys. There was one part in the video when Ellis, I forgot his name again, Devontae Ellis, I think, whatever his name was. He said that his dad and his mom got into it. I don't know if you remember that part. His dad and his mom got into it when they were in the car.
Yep.
And then he wanted to say something. He did say something to his dad. And his dad said, "This is still my wife. You still my son." And so, you know, he decided to talk about it later. But then he asked his dad, like, you know, he had a conversation with his dad, and he asked his dad, like, kind of like, when did you start learning? Like, or when did you get to a point where, I forgot how he worded it, but basically he's still learning. You know what I'm saying? Like he still didn't figure, he hasn't figured out, you know, how to be a good dad yet. You know what I'm saying? Like he's in the process of learning, like it's a ongoing thing. And I wanted to say this, like, sometimes people look to you to have it figured out, but we don't get a manual, you know, that says this is how you raise, you know, this son or this daughter. And guess what? All sons and daughters, and I'm sure you guys could attest to this, are not the exact same. They're all different. You know, they all like different things. You know, they all respond differently to certain things. So, man, yeah, like I said, I appreciate the video, bro. What we'll do is go ahead.
I mean, your children and every person you come in contact with, everybody has different personalities that you have to deal with, that you have to focus on and sometimes agree upon and sometimes not. And you hit on a good point of what he covered in the video when he asked, you know, his dad, you know, what is your biggest fears?
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
That's that point where, and something I'll throw back to you guys is, what are your biggest fears? Not only as a father, not only as a Black man, but as a man in society in this world, you know, what are your biggest fears?
Oh, you want me to answer right now?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I think my biggest fear is being a failure in the eyesight of my kids. That's my biggest fear.
Okay. Jamel?
I think my biggest fear is leaving this earth and not putting my offspring, my seeds, in a better situation than I had growing up.
100%.
100%. And I mean, mine is along the same lines as yours, Marco, is, you know, not being somebody that my kids or my spouse sees is great, because at the end of the day, in your family's eyes, you should always be great. But the biggest fear is truly not leaving a legacy on this earth. And that's whether it be kids, whether it be any kid that I mentored, leaving my stamp and just be forgotten. Because you can always remember a person and be like, he did something. And hopefully it's a positive thought that somebody can remember you by or can see that you did. And that's that stamp that you want to leave. The negative aspect, your positive always should outweigh the negative. But in society today, that one negative thing that you did always outweighs everything positive that you did. So therefore, you know, we have to be, you know, aware of what we do, where we do it, and who we do it around. Because again, as a man, that's how we're going to be looked at without being positive or our legacy. So that's kind of my biggest fear.
Got it, man. Thank you for that. So we're gonna go ahead and give our closing remarks. Again, I want to thank you all for jumping on, man. We appreciate you and your insight. on this topic. And you have any closing remarks for us?
I would always look at it as again, anybody out there that's listening, or just us on this call, share that video to get other insight and other aspects from different men, and invite men to have their spouses or girlfriends look at that with them. Maybe if any young kids, to understand different aspects of life of what us as men go through and the reason why we are what we are. But continue to be great, continue to be blessed, and continue to build every day that we can as possible.
Absolutely. Oh, there he is. I was like, did he hop off? Like you got camera shot, huh?
No.
All right, go ahead. Any closing remarks, Kozo?
Yeah, man. As always, I appreciate Brother Al for coming on, man, and imparting some of your wisdom upon us, man. It's greatly appreciated. As he says, you are our first guest, so man, you hold that title forever. So definitely, we appreciate you. And as always, Cuzzo, man, appreciate you, man, holding it down. The technical genius, making sure we together and the show going forward. And yeah, man, let's just have more conversations like this, moving forward. Let's start holding more space, not just for activity, but the connectivity. When we sit down and we have these conversations, and build on these cognitive connections and functions that we all have, but make sure that we have these conversations to where we can communicate, on based on what we need, what we didn't get, not just holding the facade together, but also making sure that we are, healthy in our mindset, because yeah, those fears are valid. They're good fears to have. So having conversations with other men that have similar fears, that's how we come up with solutions, because us as men, we're solution oriented. So if we have more of these conversations, is, hey man, I got a guy that and he can help you with that. Or hey, you know what I'm saying? I felt that way too. You know what I do? Once a week on Friday, we sit down and we do this, or we have game night, or we go out and we do this and we have that. Because as your kids grow older, their perspective of you as a parent is going to change. You're not going to be Superman all your life, because they're going to start to build their own mindset and their own opinions about the world around them in society. When we just hope as men and as fathers, we have laid down that foundation to where we impart the best of what we had to offer to them. And then they're able to use, a high level of critical thinking, to where they won't be able to be taken advantage of, mentally, because we didn't do our jobs, So let's continue to have these conversations. And again, appreciate everybody for being on. And this was a great call. Cuzzo?
Yes, sir. So me and you had conversations about starting something. Like we had multiple conversations about it, but we, never could get it, we never set aside the time to just do it. But this is one of the conversations that I've always wanted to talk about, that why we wanted to get together so we could talk about things like this. I mean, we talk about a lot of different other things as well, but this is in the avenue or the realm of things that I've always wanted to discuss, because a lot of people don't talk about them, the family dynamic, how men and women interact, children, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm just so, grateful that I could be, a part of it, doing my part. And also, you being a part of doing your part. And so, this is not just about growing the channel, but this is also being able to impart knowledge on other individuals that come across this, people that are dealing with the same type of things at that time, us being a right on time video, as they say, being right on time. But yeah, man, I'm grateful. And the last thing I would say, as we all say, in all things you do, get an understanding. Man, that is it. It's the end of episode 27. Shout out to everyone out there. We appreciate you. Please share this with somebody else. And please check on your men, the men in your life, and see how they're doing. We're out.